All right, Jordan, rounding out the show tonight, we're going to talk a little top five. I think this is next to the last position group we have left. I think all we have left after this is offensive line that we have not done, the top five of this season. So we're going to talk none other than tight ends. We're gonna try our best to make a non-controversial top five list of tight ends for Clemson all time. I'm sure everyone will agree with our list, Jordan, because everyone agrees with all of our top five lists that we make. Some of them turn into top 10 lists, but regardless, top five, right? So we're going to try to tackle tight ends tonight. You guys in the comment section, I see we got 45 people in here right now. Get your names in. You can put them in a particular order if you want, or you can just throw some names out there of people you think should be in the top five conversation when we're talking tight ends and Clemson. So name the names that come to mind. Me and Jordan do not prepare for these things. So full transparency, how our top fives evolve and work is me and Jordan sit here and we name names back and forth. And then when we get, 7, 8 names, we'll stop naming names, and then we'll try to put those in a top five order, and then obviously have the honorable mentions after that. So that's kind of how we go about it. We go completely off the cuff. We didn't research stats. We didn't pre-make a list. We literally decided the position group right before we hit go live on this video. So no pre-planning by us. But, Jordan, let's go ahead and hop into it. Top five tight ends of all time in Clemson history. What's the name that comes to your mind first?
Just for me, when I think Clemson tight end, it starts with Jordan Leggett for me. I just when you think of what he was, on that national championship team and what he developed into, especially because it wasn't always, pretty throughout his career. But I think Jordan Leggett is the epitome of the ultimate Clemson tight end. I think he's the one that everyone remembers. It's funny. He had the nickname early in his career because he didn't like the block. They called him Lazy Leggett, but just his career arc was perfect. And he capped it off in the best way. I mean, so many great moments, so many big time scores, big time catches. I mean, the catch he made on that final drive, that diving catch where he essentially caught it with his fingertips. Like, people don't give him enough love because for that, obviously Mike Williams had the big catch, and obviously Hunter Renfrow finished it off. But I think that catch from Jordan Leggett was the most important play of that drive. Like, that puts you in the red zone, puts you within range to score. Like, that's still one of the most incredible catches, I think, in that kind of moment I've ever seen. And just to see him cap off his career the way he did, and obviously he holds all the Clemson tight end receiving records. Like, it's got to be him, I think, first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think Jordan Leggett deserves to be up there. The things that he did for those national championship teams, the weapon that he was for Deshaun Watson, the security blanket that he was, the big-time pass catcher that he was, I think he absolutely deserves to be up there. Jordan Leggett's definitely one of those guys. Obviously, one of the names that come to my mind first when I think of tight ends and Clemson is Dwayne Allen. I don't think you're going to mention the tight end position and Clemson without mentioning the name of Dwayne Allen. Had a great NFL career as well to go along with it, but definitely a guy who I think you got to mention when you're talking about the greatest tight ends of all time for Clemson.
Yeah, absolutely. He's Clemson's only Mackey Award winner. I mean, I think those two guys, I think, are first and foremost when you think Clemson tight ends. Like, they're phenomenal. Yep, Dwayne Allen, great pick. All right, For my number, well, this isn't necessarily in order, but another guy that I always think of when I think Clemson tight ends, especially as of late, Davis Allen. That might be I don't know if that'll be a controversial pick or not, but
Yeah.
Davis Allen is one of my favorite, Clemson, one of my favorite Clemson tight ends just ever. And I think he was kind of underutilized while he was here, but he was just such a good football player. The guy did it all. He, blocked. He made important catches. He was just a great, reliable weapon that Clemson hasn't had that many of, over the years at that position. But and a guy that did it the way he did. Yeah, Davis Allen, I think is everything you want in a tight end, and so. And he's having a really, really solid NFL career right now, and he's carved himself a role in the league. So, I honestly, I think you might have another Davis Allen and Logan Brooking. We haven't talked about him a ton, but I really like where he projects to be down the line in that tight end room as well. So, love Davis Allen. I think he's going to be on my list. So we got the two D Allens on there.
D Allens. All right, I'm going to go Michael Palmer.
Great pick.
2006, 2009. I think he's obviously helped Clemson advance to that ACC championship game. He was a key role on that team. 43 catches for 507 yards. He's definitely up there when you think of Clemson tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the leaders of that team. I don't know if Dwayne Allen ends up being as good as he is if he doesn't have a guy like Michael Palmer to learn from. So, I think you gotta have him up there. Really underrated player over the last 20 plus years in terms of Clemson, just Clemson offensive players. And obviously he had a big time season his last year. Just a guy that did everything. So kind of like who I mentioned, Davis Allen, he was kind of like that. He was kind of like that Davis Allen type. He just did everything. He was willing to do everything. And he was a phenomenal captain and leader. So Michael Palmer, great pick. All right, I'm going to go with another guy that I think a lot of people, I think a lot of older fans will probably remember Benny Cunningham. I think he's also in that conversation. He held a lot of the Clemson tight end records before, guys like Dwayne Allen and Jordan Leggett came along. So I think you gotta have him on the list. Just didn't get to see him play. So, that's one of
definitely
that's one of the things that it always sucks when you talk about, some of the players, beyond our generation, because it's like, man, I don't really, I can't, I wish I had the same perspective as some of the fans that were able to watch him play, because, he was phenomenal. So Benny Cunningham, I think you absolutely can't talk about Clemson tight ends without talking about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, obviously, none of us got to saw him. Well, not none of us, but me or you did not get to see him play. 1973 to 75, 2 first-team all ACC selections, consensus All-American. Had over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in his career. So definitely a guy and I think he's on the 50th anniversary team as well. So. Obviously, a guy that is thought of in that when you're thinking about great tight ends in Clemson history.
John Saron says, "I'm old enough. I'm so old. I remember Jim Riggs. He should be on the list."
I was just about to say Jim Riggs. I'm glad
I was about to say. I was like, if you hold tight, he might show up.
Next on the list. I didn't get to watch him play either. I was born after Jim Riggs had already finished up his time as a Clemson Tiger, but definitely a guy that's got to be mentioned. Played from 83 to 86, All-American. Definitely considered as one of the greats at his position by fans. All ACC, two-time All ACC selection, including first team honors in '86. So also won an ACC championship while he was at Clemson. So shout out to him. Wish I got to see him play as well. So I guess I'm a little jealous there, but Jim Ridge definitely makes the list.
Yep. All right, going with another more recent example, another one in that run of tight ends. Michael Palmer, Dwayne Allen, but everybody talks about Dwayne Allen, but they don't remember. Well, they don't talk about enough his backup and pseudo starter, co-starter, Brandon Ford. He was obviously the bigger receiving. He's more of a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. But I think he started kind of that mold that Clemson liked to get more athletes at tight end, and you saw kind of a little bit of a run there, and that led them to go get Jordan Leggett, and obviously it paved the way for him and Jake Brenningstool. I think Brandon Ford, got to have him on the list. Another underrated player in the Dabo Swinney era, and probably would have been more productive if he didn't have Dwayne Allen in front of him. Just a really, really good football player, and had a nice little stint in the NFL as well. So shout out to Brandon Ford.
All right, we got 7. Do we want to stop there, or what do we want to do? Do we want to add anybody else to the list?
I mentioned him. I think you got to put Jake Brenningstool. I think he needs to be in consideration. We didn't mention him, right?
Jake Brenningstool? No, he's not. He was not on the list yet. But
okay, all right. Just make sure. I think you got to have Jake on there.
No, I agree. Set a lot of records at Clemson. He's obviously one of the guys that are towards the top when it comes to the tight end position. Just an absolute weapon when it comes to a true receiving tight end. Not your inline blocker that's going to go out there and pave the way for your running back, but a guy that is an absolute matchup nightmare when it comes to linebackers or nickels or safeties or anybody really covering him. Specifically in the red zone and stuff like that. He was always a weapon. Even with some of the struggles that he had, he still set a lot of records at Clemson. I don't know that he gets enough credit for some of the stuff that he did do because of some of the criticism that he received while he was here, and just kind of where Clemson was offensively for a good portion of his time while he was a Clemson Tiger. So, but definitely think Jake Brenningstool belongs on this list. All right, so that gives us 8. So unless there's another name we want to add, we should start putting them in some sort of order.
Oh, John mentioned Lamont Hall. That would have been a good pick too. It's the thing with tight ends for Clemson is like there's so many of these guys. Like Clemson doesn't have like a rich pedigree at tight end.
No,
and,
not really.
Some of those guys, that we mentioned are guys that ended up not, having. They weren't always the most utilized in the passing game. That's just never been at any point in Clemson history a position that they really put a ton of emphasis on, even when they had great players. And so it always makes it hard to put together a list like this because you're like, okay, there's a lot of guys with similar production, and you just kind of have to evaluate, okay, who did I like? Who did I like best?
Yeah, you got to pick your personal preferences, honestly, because there's not a ton of statistical separation there.
You could, you meant Lamont Hall. I could have mentioned Katie Dunn. Like there's so many like tight ends that Clemson has had that you just fans look back at their careers and they're like, man, why weren't they used more? Right. And so that's
honestly, you look at some of the guys that Clemson's had at tight end, and you're like, man, every one of these guys were underutilized.
Yeah,
that's like just maybe maybe
other
Jordan
than Jordan Leggett, because even Dwayne Allen didn't have
maybe Jordan Leggett was like the guy that was utilized like as close to his potential while at Clemson.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, they were all underutilized while at Clemson. So, all right, I'm gonna rattle off the list, and then we'll try to start making sense of all the names that we have named so far. So we got 8 people on the list. We got to rank them 1 through 5, and then leave the rest off. Leave 3 as our honorable mentions, if you will. All right, so we got Jordan Leggett, Dwayne Allen, Davis Allen, Michael Palmer, Benny Cunningham, Jim Riggs, Brandon Ford, Jake Brenningstool. Those are your top 8. So who we going number 1?
All right. For me, I think just from a personal, just for what he accomplished at the program, I think Jordan Leggett has to be number 1 for me.
I knew you were going to go there.
He also has a great first name, so that helps. So
I see the Jordans are sticking together in this.
Yeah, we're kind of sticking together here.
In all seriousness, I agree with you. He's got the national title, right? What he meant to the program, the records that he set while he was here, the weapon that he truly was in the offense. I mean, you think about that, some of those catches that he made down the stretch in that game versus Alabama. That one diving one on the sideline, and that final drive where Hunter Renfrow scores the game-winning touchdown, right? And that's just one of the examples of kind of the things that he did while at Clemson. So, yeah, we'll go Jordan Leggett, number 1. All right, number 2. Where are we going? Dwayne Allen, number 2?
Yeah, I think you got to go Dwayne Allen. He's your only Mackey Award winner, had a good NFL career. I think you got to have him. And he had the production he did. Yeah, he played on some really talented Clemson offenses. I mean, he played with Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins. Martavis Bryant, Adam Humphries, Andre Ellington at running back.
Yo, what?
having the split snaps with Brandon Ford. Like,
how do we not win more games with that offense? Yeah. We had Taj Boyd, D-Hop, Martavis Bryant, Sammy Watkins, Dwayne Allen. All right, so number 1, we got Jordan Leggett. Number 2, we got Dwayne Allen. Left on the list, we got Davis Allen, Michael Palmer, Benny Cunningham, Jim Riggs, Brandon Ford, and Jake Brenningstool. Who we got at 3?
I'm going Benny Cunningham.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Benny Cunningham.
Yeah. I think
so we got 2 more spots now.
And honestly, I think if you ask a lot of the old heads, they'd probably still have Benny Cunningham number 1. So yeah, I think he's got to be at least top 3.
Yeah, be top 3. Okay. All right. I like our list so far. We got Jordan Leggett, Dwayne Allen, Benny Cunningham. Okay. We got 2 more spots available, and we got 5 people left. Okay. So Jake Brenningstool, Brandon Ford, Jim Riggs, Michael Palmer, Davis Allen.
I'm going Jim Riggs.
Yeah, I was thinking between him and Michael Palmer. 4. All right, Jim Riggs at number 4. We got 4 left in 1 spot. We got our new school guy, Jake Brenningstool. We got Brandon Ford, Michael Palmer, Davis Allen.
I think, I'm going Michael Palmer. I think because of, and also what he was one of those guys that stuck around through the transition from Tommy Bowden to Dabo.
Yep.
Like, he was instrumental. So I think Michael Palmer is a guy that meant a ton, especially in that time period for the program.
Yeah.
and obviously what it led to. I think you got to have Michael Palmer.
Yeah, it was kind of between him and Jim Riggs for number 4 for me, so I think it makes sense at 5.
Yeah.
All right, so our list for anybody out here who cares. Top 5 tight ends according to me and Jordan. Number 1, Jordan Leggett. He's got a national championship. So if you guys have listened to any of me and Jordan's top 5 so far, we disproportionately weight national championships. If you were a top contributor on one of those teams, if you were a key contributor on one of those teams, you get mad points for national championships. That's just our criteria. It is what it is. All right, so number 1, Jordan Leggett. Number 2, Dwayne Allen. Number 3, Benny Cunningham. Number 4, Jim Riggs. Number 5, Michael Palmer. Honorable mentions, Davis Allen, Brandon Ford, and Jake Brenningstool. That's your top 5 according
I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I like that one. I mean, it sucks to leave the guys we did off.
It does. But like all of these top 5s that we've done so far, it sucks leaving some of those guys off, but you got to decide at some point. And a lot of times, some of it comes down to personal preference. Some of it comes down to, I actually got to watch this guy play. So we got some recency bias in some of our top 5s. And some of it is, well, he got a national championship and he didn't, right? And yes, ultimately, football is a team sport. But, you know, when you're one of those big-time key contributors on a national championship team, I think you just get extra props for that. And Jordan Leggett definitely did that. Not to mention the records he set, not to mention, you know, what he meant to that offense. You know. So, all right, there you have it. Top 5 tight ends of all time for Clemson, according to me and Jordan.
Yep. There it is. I feel like I said, I feel good about that. I feel like I could reasonably defend every single one of those players' placements and where they are.
Yeah, I think it was great.